okay. Don't listen, Hello. Hi, all. Welcome to the last night of the Women's Festival shows.
I'm so sorry.
We are two stone birds. We have some little magical stories and noodly tunes to share with you. We have some oceany light things if you want to drift off, because our first story is inspired by The Water Babies by Charles Kingsley, which is about what happens after you die and you go into the ocean. You have to go to the other end of nowhere, which is what this is called. Ready? Nice. At the other end of nowhere, words Charles Kingsley wrote. This is where we find another way to keep ourselves afloat. From a human land of rolling hills, far from oceans and seas unstill, lie creatures unknown to my own blue eyes, suspended silently in darker heights. But beings unseen by men that glean wooden chests through violent means can vanish down an endless trench, immaculate, unplundered, but blue heart wrenched in reactionary, furious solitude. Boiling inside a shell misconstrued, Atlantis lies empty, but for one. This confused shellfish, rendered alone. Displaced by another case of want over need, fears bubbling in jet streams rising, clearing the liquid air thick with life, a single ripple crosses and bends in the light cast from above. Dissolving in otherworldly nights as the search party finally decides that for reliable recovery, they've run out of time. The entrance gates loom in iridescent grandeur. Foundations lay deep in cold sand rarely quivered before this cephalopod's unannounced arrival. Years and years Atlantis stood, monumental and waiting for a change, a return, a moment out width of the pressure to keep up this black ceiling. Disguised unconsenting as an abyss. No one would ever find Atlantis on purpose, but Atlantis did not know this. Shells and skeletons scattered across marbled halls. The stone arches look on, searching for those dusty halos everyone before brought with them. A ring to be collected and stored in secret in a deep basement reserved for only the most mysterious artifacts. All crustaceans and fish and water babies and combinations of all sea beings arrived here with this floating disc above their head. It was the one common factor, and therefore the only clue that could be read and trusted as an answer to the enigma of what lay above this seabed and its black ceiling. And so it kept hoarding. Scuttling feet echoed illogically along narrow closes, boasting a speed motivated by desperation and confusion. The cephalopod scales the impossibly high walls for an opening that would, by miracle or fate, lead to somewhere out with the ocean. I know the water. I am familiar with great depths, it says, but this is not the land I know, because all of it is wet and empty. Why is it so empty? There's no one here, but the bodies of deceased creatures riddled with fear. Parasitic entropy feels transmittable and near. But I have to keep my shell on, hold my head strong, listen for the distant sound of dolphins dancing and that bird song, feel for the warm current that could carry me along to the other end of nowhere to meet my final home. This spiralling life form Atlantis witnesses, and in a fleeting moment of grace or weakness, her vast exterior submits to buried hope and treasured interest. Every other being drove themselves crazy on arrival in an instant, smacking tentacles off walls and fins cutting seaweed indignant. How can sand and stone be so scared of such spineless, slippery beings, arriving one after another, but never simultaneously. Worse things truly do happen at sea, but this is the first time her temples have been left in peace. So she watches the creature suspiciously, and she says with hesitant ease, I have to keep my roof on, hold my columns strong, listen for the distant sound of sun rising and that whale song, feel for the warm currents that could carry me along to the other end of nowhere where I'll never be alone. Faster and faster, Atlantis' eyesight is scattered as the creature covers a lot of ground but never in a rampage. Inquisitive in its searches and nervous with its feelers, as if this was the first time it had ever put them to good use. Those tiny limbs can feel the walls breathing and wonders what that would be like. To be huge and majestic but fixed to one side. Never growing, never showing age or hope for a change, and Atlantis quakes at this phrase. Firstly outraged, and the minute hairs on the creature's palm inflame in response to the new sensation, and to a blurry memory of being the same, of being stuck in a void, in a blank space, air thick with life, but no way to tame the symptoms of being alone and in pain, with barricades and ways to justify being afraid of strangers who fell through the ceiling, unexpectedly and without caring of what they would land upon, and the injury it would cause. The shellfish takes a tiny breath and holds it in a pause, and says, I fell from somewhere because the darkness was too much. I couldn't see another way in life. Life felt numb to the touch. The searchlights grew distant and the sound of sirens muffled, and my thoughts swirled. A ring around my head was all I could hold. The steering wheel was here the whole time, but I didn't know it was meant to turn and direct into shallower waters. So I find myself here at your door and in your hall, in your empty rooms and corridors and basement filled with these wheels. Atlantis? What would you have me think here? Did you steal their compasses away? All those bodies laid there, did they know there was another way, a path they could take, a direction they could steer, all at once together and get the fuck out of here? Atlantis, usually a shimmering blue, gradually turns to a deep red hue. Flashes of light running through the brickwork and emerging in the middle of a cobbled courtyard. The ground splits open and halos begin to rise. Through the falling sands in a swirling vortex they fly, splitting in half, reassembling in one solid line. A huge circle surrounds Atlantis from every side. The water is warm on the ocean floor, and this ancient city speaks to the shellfish visitor. I thought being put here on this land was punishment for me. A damn place designed so uniquely to be infuriating, and everyone who arrived here was a chaotic atrocity. Still waters run deep indeed. Too furious to get close and too lost to make sense. They all died eventually, so I didn't think they would miss them, those funny little wheels. If I'd known I could have guided scaly beings onward, shown them how to spin wheels towards a point in the distance, a shadowy threat or cam, undefinable by myself in the limited, rigid structure I am, limbless and lifeless. I've held my precious feelings at bay. But I think you'll be okay, Cephalopod. I think you did something today. And the redness grows brighter, and the ground begins to shake, and all the missing sea life returns, surrounding the kingdom's gates. The ceiling of Atlantis rapidly changes colour in the bioluminescence of those tiny aquatic creatures, and as they move on, to another plane unbound by darkness and isolation and without a constant state of wrong. They say, I know I'll keep my head on, hold my trust strong. Listen for the distant sound of dolphins dancing to that bird song. I can feel the warm current carrying us along to the other end of nowhere, the place where we belong. I know I'll keep my head on, hold my trust strong. Listen for the distant sound of sun rising to the whale song. I can feel that warm current carrying us along to the other end of nowhere, the place where we belong, the other end of nowhere, the place where we belong. Thank you.